Morning, how's everyone going? My name's DeadRon, I'm an Australian VTuber, and today I'm taking you through my build for CloCaffeinated Shell Challenge. This is her Tetris birthday shell. As you can see, the shell forms a number of letters plus a number of other random shapes that spell out Close B-Day. So CloCaffeinated is a great Aussie streamer, go check her out on Twitch. And what I've decided to do for this shell is turn it into a retirement village. So the intention of this shell, as it is a Tetris shell, was to move all of your different boxes and form them into a building or a couple buildings. I decided I want to play on hard mode, and I turned it into a retirement village where every single box is its own building. You can see here that I did a number of cheaper apartments through the B, D, L and C that form the 4 cheaper apartments within this build. So there are 8 apartments within the build, 4 cheaper ones, 3 expensive ones and 1 mid-range one. These 4 cheaper apartments were all similar layout, similar items. I copied the bed. The bathrooms are basically direct copies of each other, barring some geometry changes that were necessary. And they all have a very similar vibe to them. They also only have a kitchenette in these ones. There is no stove, there is only a microwave. This square box here I decided to turn into a little nursery area where children can be minded while the parents go talk to the grandparents, or where the grandparents can play with the children. Then we move on to the A, which became a dining area. As several of the apartments only have a kitchenette, we needed a full dining area and kitchen for those apartments. So fairly simple here, 2 identical kitchens and 2 identical dining setups. I decided to reuse the same lights through most of the build. I think it helps create a consistent theme throughout the build and feels like it was developed together rather than being a bunch of separate unrelated buildings. You'll also notice I use the same yellow for all of the buildings, barring the gym, which I made orange, and the 3 shacks out the back, which were wooden panelled. So this here now is the Groundskeepers Shack. We have some timber slats, which aren't currently in there, as well as a workbench, a gardening area, flower arranging stand, and a lot of clutter relative to the rest of the build. Also put several furnaces in, or chimneys in, fireplaces, which are intended as incinerators in order to get rid of any flammable garbage. Now we move from the Groundskeepers Shack onto the next part, which was the gym. So this gym is intended to be quite open air. We have the vertical slats on both sides, vertical blinds, a full-length mirror across one wall, a few towels for the elders to use, and 3 pieces of gym equipment. We've got a punching bag, a treadmill, and an exercise bike. Oh no, sorry, it was a weight machine. Now we're moving on to one of the 3 larger apartments, where this one is one of the fancier 2. It is intended as a sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a upper middle class build. There are some, or even possibly higher than that. So I use the presents from within the shell at the front, Then used a lot of wood paneling around and wooden chests of drawers and dressers and stuff like that. Had to make it fairly fancy, put a lot of nice artwork up there, and some fairly high-end clutter, you know, the fancy sparkling water bottle, some flowers, and like I said, one of the fancier base game wallpapers there. This one was actually relatively easy compared to some for the layout of the place. It had enough room and it wasn't obstructed by unusual wall shapes or anything like some of the other builds were. I'm really proud of how that kitchen there turned out. I think the wine bottles, knives and pans really worked well together, and I like that I got them all lined up together very nicely. So this next one is another of the higher end apartments, and this one was intended to be very what's the word I'm looking for? Very on theme. I went with a sunflower, a very, very strong sunflower theme for this one. Everything in there is yellow, from the bed to the wallpaper to the flooring to every item of furniture. I even went with a yellow MacBook computer or whatever the Sims off-brand name for that is. I've made it as though this person is very into entertaining, given them a number of instruments, a microphone, and a little sort of stage area within their unit. All the decorations, as mentioned, are very, very yellow in this build. I did struggle with the sunflower garden outside, as I couldn't quite, or as it would have taken far too long to free place all the sunflowers as I would have liked. However, it kind of does work for the sunflowers to be very ordered. Whenever I see deliberate farmed sunflower fields, they do seem very ordered, and obviously they tend to all be pointing in the same direction. I was trying to work out what I could do for the S, and I know that the S in close was something that a lot of people struggled with. I decided to turn it into a set of public toilets for the pool. Well, initially for the hot tub, which was a required item for the build, and then I felt this was a bit overkill for just a hot tub, so I added in a pool next to it. I really think there's going to be a lot of very fit elders in this build, or in this retirement village. I didn't get a chance to test out if everything in the build is functional. I would like to do that at some point, but I have not got around to it yet. Continuing the health theme for the elders, we've got a little bike shed here where we've stored a bunch of very, very colourful bikes that the elders can ride on. We now add 2 more of the budget apartments. Once again, they're largely duplicates of the previous 2. I've gone with a yellow, green, blue and orange colour theme for the 4. And there are some layout differences, but apart from that, more or less the same items, barring a few personal items. That helped me save time, because this is definitely one of the largest builds that I've done, and Chloe acknowledged that. She definitely sounds like she's going to be doing a smaller build next, a smaller shell challenge next time. And now we move on to the final of the expensive apartments. This one was actually quite difficult to do as it was very constrained. I went with a very high-end theme with this one. presumably at least one female resident in here, although, you know, you can't say that for sure these days. A lot of makeup and that in there. As you can see, I once again struggled a lot to get that hallway there and the bedroom next to it to fit the right dimensions, and it does feel a bit cramped for how high-end this apartment is supposed to be. But we got it through in the end. There's a living room at the very front of the build, and the kitchen forms a corner. Then we've squeezed a dining table right on the edge. So there are 8 apartments in the build. Obviously, all but one have double beds, so you could definitely just have empty apartments and play with some couples together in an apartment. Now, the next 2 rooms I did were a library and a computer room. So we've got 3 computers, we've got a typewriter on display and a tablet in there. And then right next to it we've got a little quiet library with a cozy little coffee corner and some bookshelves lining the walls, as well as a couple little notice boards. And just doing some final touches on those. Now, this final apartment was intended for a bit of a hip gamer granddad. It's got a very strong red colour theme. Got a massive TV, a gaming mat. It has a tablet, very high end, very flashy appliances in it. One thing I wasn't able to fit in this build was a toilet or a bath / shower. So this elder presumably has to walk outside and use the public one next to the pool. I've also filled it with a bunch of movie posters. It definitely feels like an old Star Trek fans sort of build. So the next thing we did was a greenhouse. Quite simple, a lot of glass on the outside, gave it a glass roof, and then put a bunch of plants in there. I didn't get an opportunity to talk about the gazebo earlier. The gazebo next to the greenhouse is intended as a bit of a party area. You've got a bar there, you've got a piano, you've got a barbecue, plenty of space for elders to hang out. Now the third last room we did was a little art studio with some still life paint, canvases and some still life sort of bowls to paint. Now, I did the final 2 rooms together. We have a little music room here. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to fit in a piano. I would like the small keyboard that comes in one of the packs. And then next to it we have a gaming room, the chess table, card table, and then a bookshelf full of collectibles. I love the look of those collectibles there. So that's the end of the build. I want to thank you for coming. You can check me out on YouTube as DeadRon, Twitch as DeadRon_, and DeadRon_ on Twitter. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Have a great day.